Hey folks, it's Tom, your Frugal Prepper. I'm just going to try to make a few quick observations about things that I've learned and my preferences about canning. Um, Number one thing I want to say is I tried these lids for the first time last night. These are all going back to Walmart and getting exchanged for ball lids. They crease in the canner, they bulge up. They're junk. They don't work well. Spend the extra money, buy American, support American workers, and buy the real ball brand. Um, I've had intermittent success with Tatler lids as well. Um, I just stick with ball and I'll stockpile a lot of them. And if you find them on sale after canning season, you'll probably be fine. But you see the creases in this one. It's sealed. It's okay. I don't like that, but I would just rather have a perfect looking lid, like the ball lids. Okay. Um, Another thing I'll talk about is the type of canner. I see a lot of videos telling, basically everybody that you're stupid if you buy a Presto or a Miro canner. You should buy the All American, and it's the only real canner out there, and yada yada yada. The truth is that this Presto canner, I think this is the 23 quart. It's been a great canner. Yeah, it's got a rubber gasket. Okay. And yes, it's a little thinner gauge steel, but that's not been a problem at all. It's been plenty strong enough. I've done a lot of canning in this now. Um, on the rubber seals, what I do is after you're done canning for a while, and you're going to put it up, pull this seal out, wash it off with some good dish soap and water, and before you put it away, wipe the whole thing down with some vegetable oil. That seal just stays perfect that way. Um, the other thing to consider is yes, seals will fail eventually after years of use. So the thing is if you're preparing for an SHTF event, what if the seal goes bad and you can't get one? Well, that's why you buy extra seals. Okay? I've even got some here. There's one for, I have more of these in the closet, but there's one here for my old canner too, my old 21. These seals are $10. They come with the rubber plug and the seal. You can stockpile a lot of rubber seals for the costs of an All-American. You can replace a lot of seals before you get to the cost of an All-American. Okay, so keep that in mind. I've been using this canner for a year. Now, I don't use it every day or anything, but every month or so, I do a few canning sessions. And this rubber seal is still like new. Because I keep it clean and I keep it rubbed down with vegetable oil. So that's an important thing to note. Also, if you get a big canner, buy an extra one of these so you can use them to double stack your jars. You put one on the bottom, stack your jars, put one in between on top of those jars, and stack your next jars on that. This is another $10. Highly recommend making this investment if you get a big canner. By the way, I recommend getting as big a canner as you can because this is all about time, folks. By the time you clean your surfaces, prep your kitchen, prep your product, get the stuff chopped up, do as many at a time as you can. So maybe you can get that all processed in one batch. In fact, if you're really seriously considering an All-American, I would beg you to consider buying 2 or 3 of these instead. Because after SHTF, if one of them fails or warps or blows up, you still got 2 more left, and you can run 3 of these bad boys and get 3 times as much processed normally and get done in a fraction of the time. And the more you can do at a time, generally the more time you're going to save because it's kind of like an assembly line process after so long. But if you find a small one really cheap at a garage sale or something, don't hesitate to buy it. You can still use it, but you'll probably want to get the bigger one eventually. The other thing is the weight. Okay, The thing I hear people say all the time on the All American is, well, it's got the weight that goes 5, 10, or 15 pounds. Okay, for like an extra $10 or whatever, the Presto does come with this weight. It's only a 15-pound weight. Now you can can at 15 pounds. It seems to work fine for me, even though I really only need 10. But you can also go get this weight. The weight by itself is 5, which would be cooking only, not canning. And then you've got the with one ring on it, it's 10. With a third ring on it, it's 15. Make that investment. You got two things going for you there. One, you got this weight that you can do exactly 10 pounds. Or if you lose it, you can go ahead and process at 15 or watch your gauge and use this one. So you got an extra. What this does is if you really want to process at exactly 10 pounds, but you've got the 15-pound jiggler weight, then you've got to sit there and watch the gauge and keep adjusting the flame. If you just go and buy this little thing for $10, it'll regulate it to 10 pounds. You just adjust it so that it's rocking a little bit, and you don't have to sit there and keep an eagle eye on it. You're not going to be sitting there in your chair watching your gauge and adjusting your stove for the next hour and a half. Also, get a kit that has like the lid lifter. That's a handy thing. Now, I've learned that when I pressure can, I really don't need to preheat my lids. The canner gets them plenty hot enough to seal. When I water bath, I do heat them in some hot water. Not boiling water, just hot water. You're going to want to get like a jar lifter. It's really handy. I don't have it here now, but I got these all in like a little ball canning kit that came with the jar lifter, the lid lifter. It came with the little tool that you use to get the air bubbles out and check the headspace with, and it came with a jar funnel for like $10 or something. Okay, buying them all individually would have cost a lot more, so I bought the kit. So I would recommend getting the Presto canner because it's going to work fine. And yes, the All American's better. But I don't have that kind of money, and I would rather increase my processing abilities by getting 3 of the Prestos versus for the same price versus 1 of the All Americans and have the extra parts. Okay, as far as extra parts, some people do buy an extra gauge. I've decided not to. If my gauge fails, I'm okay with that. It's still going to go to the weight that I have the weight set for. It's still going to go to that pressure that I have the weight set for. So I don't have to rely on the gauge. In fact, in the manual, it tells you when you use the weight, when you set this for 10 pounds, don't pay any attention to your gauge. It says go by the weight. Now, I found that it's dead on with the gauge, but it tells you not to. So if you have this to set your 10 pounds, you don't even care if the gauge works. So don't waste the money buying a spare one. I mean, yes, if it failed during regular times, I would probably go ahead and replace it. But after SHTF, if it fails, as long as it don't leak steam, it's fine. If it breaks off and it's leaking steam, I will find a bolt and something to put in there to plug the hole, and I'll still use the canner as just a weighted canner. It'll work. The other thing, although I have some wide mouth jars just because I've gotten them, these pint and a halves came from an estate sale, and I do like the size. But I like the narrow mouth lids. My absolute favorite canning jar that I use the most is the good old-fashioned ball pint jar. It just seems to be the perfect size. A pint is a pound the world over, and that seems to be the perfect size. It's the normal portion that I need to cook for a family of 4 when I'm making beef and noodles or something. And I like the narrow lids. Yes, you have to get a fork out and work a little harder maybe to get this out than you will with the wide mouth. But the lids are cheaper. They're like $1 cheaper a pack for the small lids versus the bigger ones. I'd just rather save the money. Now, wide mouth is really good for certain things, so I have a few of them, and I still use them. But I don't... If I find a good deal on the jars, I find a good deal, I'll get them, but I really like the narrow mouth just for the cost savings. When you do a lot of canning, it gets expensive. The cost of the lids can. And you got to bear in mind that you use a can of meat and a can of veggies a day for a couple meals a day for a family of 4. you're going to need thousands of jars if you're going to put a year's worth back. Now, these aren't my only food storage. I have regular canned goods and stuff like that too. But I probably am up to about 300 or 400 jars now, and I have 2 small boxes that are not in use. All of the rest have food in them. I find the quart sizes are generally just too big. I like the quart size for storing dry goods, though, for my cornmeal and stuff like that. I like the half-gallon sizes for making iced tea. Put that lid right on there, throw it out in the sun, you got sun tea. And you can get the bigger tea bags that are designed for half-gallon, 2 quarts. So they work perfect for that. This is my fridge. I think was made during the Kennedy administration. My fridge is made by General Motors. So, I used to always get the boneless cuts of meat, but I found that cut around the bones. This is the shoulder bones. Freeze these, and next time you make beans or a vegetable soup, these make great soups. Leave a little meat on them, they'll boil right off. Okay, the other thing I'll say is if you're going to be canning a lot of meat, you have to cut this stuff in 1/4-inch chunks. I have found that it's best to freeze the meat solid and then wait until it's kind of semi-frozen. That's when it's going to cut the easiest for you. It's still got firmness to it from being frozen. And buy some good knives. This one, I forget. This one is I think it's called a Sabater. Excellent knife, and it's not too expensive. I want to say this knife was like $14-15 at we got it at Bed Bath and Beyond. But this thing, I run it through my little cheapy Harbor Freight knife sharpener a couple of times. Just drag it through there, and this thing will just slice through meat, even tough meat. And the same with this. A good perforated knife like this. This is also, I'm sorry, these are still a little dirty. Washed hands. But yeah, this you run this through the knife sharpener. It gets real sharp. It's good for really sawing when you're getting in close to the bone and you need some aggressive action. And this also works great for cutting bread. Again, don't be afraid to spend a little money on your knives. These might even been upwards of $20 or something. But you're going to need those sharp knives because when you're cutting around the bone and really making aggressive cuts in a big piece of meat, a dull knife is going to get your finger cut, right? A dull knife is going to result in you pushing, and then you're going to slip and you're going to cut yourself. A sharp knife, you're far less likely to cut yourself with a sharp knife. But that's just kind of some of the things that I do for canning.